So this is the big one. I'm talking about Shabbat, of course. Shabbat Hagadol. That is the name for this Shabbat, which immediately precedes Passover. We will celebrate our first Seder a week from tonight, and this Shabbat gives us some time to reflect and prepare for our holiday of freedom. So why is this Shabbat referred to as the Great or Big Sabbath? Well, it was on the 10th of Nisan, 5 days before the people of Israel were freed from Egypt, that the Israelites were given a special commandment that would save their lives. It was a commandment that only applied to them and not to future generations. The instructions were to take a lamb, one for each household, and to offer it to God in order to protect them from the angel of death. And that they were able to do this on Shabbat in particular, without the possibility of hiding the plan from their oppressors, was among the many miracles the people witnessed during their liberation, and it is why this Shabbat is referred to as Shabbat Hagadol. And this Shabbat has been celebrated and observed throughout the centuries in many different ways. Communities this weekend read parts of the Haggadah. They sing special hymns to remind themselves of the ways to observe Passover. And this has also been a time when the rabbi of the community would remind and instruct the congregation on exactly how to prepare for the holiday. The rabbi, or Cantor, would do this with a very lengthy sermon. I'm not going to do that tonight. Instead, I'd like us to prepare for Passover in a musical way by experiencing a few different settings of Adir, the quintessential hymn of Passover. You'll recognize the melody right away. And if you do, there are just a few words. I thought they were in your order of service, but they aren't. But please sing along anyway. So here's Adir. Adir hu, yivne veito bekarov, bimheira, veyamenu bekarov, el bnei vetcha bekarov. God of might, God of right, we would bow before you, sing your praise in these days, celebrate your glory. When we hear, year by year, freedom's wondrous story. The text of this hymn is dated to the 6th or 7th century, but didn't appear in printed form until the 15th century. Originally, Adir was included in all festivals, not just Passover. And when we look at the text, we see the special way that the hymn is constructed, going through an alphabetical list of God's attributes. Aleph, Adir, God is mighty. Bet, Bachur, God is distinguished. Gimel, Gadol, God is great. And so on and so forth. And each one of these verses concludes with a plea that God rebuild the temple in Jerusalem soon, quickly in our days. This request to rebuild the temple represents the hope for the coming of a messianic age, a time of peace and harmony for all, when no person is oppressed anywhere. Now, the setting of Adir, we just sang, is the most popular and most familiar one. It's an Ashkenazi tune that sounds nearly identical in communities around the world. It's also the melody that many use for other liturgy during Passover, using that tune for the words of Mi Chamocha, for example. The second setting we'll sing tonight is a lesser-known version with what they used to call an Oriental melody, coming from the roots of Judaism. So it might be a Yemenite melody. It has a faster, more dance-like meter, and we'll sing it tonight by starting first with a musical improvisation, which would often introduce Turkish and Arabic classical tunes.
Adir ho, ivne vetto beccaro, bimheira, ve yammeno beccaro, el bene, bene vetcha beccaro, bimheira, ve yammeno beccaro. Bachor ho, ivne vetto beccaro, bimheira, ve yammeno beccaro, el bene, vetcha beccaro, bimheira, ve yammeno beccaro. Gadol ho, ivne vetto beccaro, bimmeira, ve yammeno beccaro, el bene, vetcha beccaro, bimmeira, ve yammeno beccaro.
It's noteworthy that this hymn came to be so strongly associated with Passover. None of the words of the hymn directly mention the miracle of redemption from Egypt or the parting of the sea. And never mind those English lyrics you heard, because those are not a faithful translation of the original Hebrew. But by singing Adir, a song about the innumerable attributes of God and the hope for lasting peace for all people, we connect to the universal message and power of our holiday. That the liberation we remember and celebrate every year is not complete. That the bitterness of slavery is still all around us. That we must continue to pass these songs and these stories down, along with this urgent hope for peace. We will end with a contemporary setting of Adir, one written in 2020 by composer Lauren Shevitz. And this version combines a dance-like quality with many vocal parts, so I'm going to call our choir up and Jenna back to help us. It expresses both the joy of the holiday balanced with this longing this longing for this time that we can see, we can taste right over the horizon, a time of peace.
Adir hu yivne beito bekarov bimhera bimhera beyameinu bekarov el bnei betcha bekarov bachur hu yivne beito bekarov bimhera bimhera beyamenu vekarov el bnei betcha bekarov hadur ho yivne beito bekarov bimhera bimhera beyamenu bekarov el bnei betcha bekarov
יחיד הוא
עמוד הוא
נורא הוא סגיב הוא איזור הוא פורה הוא צדיק הוא יבנה ודקרו במהרה במהרה בימינו וקרוב אל בני ביתך בקרוב
קדוש הוא